Hey guys, I appreciate you guys taking out the time again with me. Thanks for tuning in. You know, we like to talk about people and what they've done to get to where they are. And a lot of times you'll see someone driving a nice car, or they'll live in a nice home, or you'll watch their social media and all you see is like all of the beautiful things and the things that look great. But a lot of us sometimes don't realize that that individual went through a lot of trials and tribulations to get to where they are. And so today I have a special guest, a good friend of mine, not only a good friend of mine, special guest, but he's actually my neighbor. It's like they say, when you surround yourself around good people, good energy, good vibes, it only motivates you to do better. So today I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Bjorn Beez Hendricks. And just to give you a little bit of background on him, this individual, I can't even count how many businesses he has because he just has so many. But one of the things about Bjorn that intrigues me is he has mastered streamlining business. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that a lot of us get into when we get into business is we'll get into business, but then, you get stuck in the rut of running the business. Mm. And that's like the one thing that is really difficult because your time now is all dedicated to running the business and you don't have time for anything else. And trust me, I know what that feels like. So Bjorn, I feel has mastered that system to where he opens up a business, sets it up, and then he lets it run itself. So Bjorn, thanks again for coming today. Thanks for taking out the time. I know you're busy. You're all over the place.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So I just wanted to talk about, let's start with maybe, where you're from, right?
Mm-hmm. So originally, I'm from Mandeville, Jamaica, which is it's like in the mountains, and we would say it's the country. But I always say it's not really the country anymore. It's really been developed, and it's an amazing town to be in. But from Mandeville, Jamaica, when I was around 12, I moved to Brooklyn, New York, and grew up and finished high school in New York before coming to Florida, and I've been here ever since. I went to college in Orlando, University of Central Florida. And then just kept growing from there. Okay. But it's interesting that you say that too about the structuring the businesses so that it could reclaim your time. And that was always what I told everybody. I was like, hey, especially like in the beginning of 2020, I used to say, I'd get up, I'd hit the gym, I'd go get a facial, go get a massage. I really was relaxed and I had a lot of my time. And then, like how you said, I'm all over the place now. I'm more busy than ever now, but it's not because of the businesses. Right. It's because I started teaching people, mentoring people, doing speaking events. I wish I could send my employees to go speak for me, but I can't. But you can't. That's the one thing. Yeah. So that's where it becomes, those are the things that you choose to say, okay, that's not going to be scalable, right, but I'm willing to do it because I also want to have that impact, on others. So. Well, let's talk about how many businesses do you have? So here's the thing. Right now, there's 10 that serve customers. There's more that are like holding companies, real estate, things like that. But 10 that are like public facing, have customers and that type of stuff. But what I've been teaching people and preaching more recently is not just starting and creating new businesses and growing new businesses, but acquiring them, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something that I don't think our community ever really thought was possible. It sounds grandiose. It's like, I can't go buy a business. I'm not going to do that. I can't afford it. But then there's ways that you could do it with $0 out of pocket, right? It's all in how you structure the deal. It's similar to how when you're doing real estate, right? So if you think of even wholesaling a real estate deal, right? You get the contract. You have certain clauses in it that allow you to transfer it. You go find a new buyer, and then you just kind of assign the contract and keep the money in between, right? You could do that with a business. Same thing. Yeah. So when people see, it's like, oh wait, hold up, didn't you have 8 businesses a few months ago? Yeah, because I acquired a new one now. So 10 overall that I'm growing and working in. One in particular that I'm really putting extra focus into.
Okay.
It's called the Business Builders Institute.
Okay.
That's the one where my mentorship is. That's where my speaking engagements go through. That's where I help. Because impact again is where I can have the most impact.
Right. But let's talk about your journey, right? So you didn't just wake up one day and become this successful businessman. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between Bjorn, Beez, in terms of how did you become Beez? You know, like what motivated you to get to where you are? What was that journey like? I mean, did you work normal jobs or did you get straight into business? You know?
I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Right? I remember in Brooklyn, there was this store called Anasha right across from my junior high school. And I was the only one that established a relationship with the owners. They used to hate the rest of the kids that came in because, you know, all the kids were just bum rushing the place and causing chaos. But I established a relationship with them, and then they were willing to give me the candy at like bulk prices, which I would then take and sell to the students in school.
For them?
Not for them. I would buy it.
You would buy it and you would do it for yourself. Okay.
And do it for myself. So I always had that type of spirit in heart. But, you know, there was it's funny, I just had this discussion too. There was a traumatic event that happened to me in high school. And I'll tell you what it is, but basically I came home from work. Okay. I had a job at the sneaker store junior year, I think it was. Well, it's freshman through junior year. And then I was coming home from work one day, and as I walked in, there was a gun to my head. And, you know, these guys had my mom tied up, and, you know, they were robbing the place. And I think there was some other stuff that happened with it, but that made me kind of change my life. Because I had never thought of, like, college or anything like that prior. And the only exposure that I had to college was the show A Different World. You remember that one? Yeah, the Cosby Show and A Different World. So that kind of changed everything for me. And then senior year, I was like, okay, I want to do something different, and I want to see about getting into college and all of that type of stuff. So that was the changing point as a kid. But then through my adult life, I went to college. I went into corporate America. I always had one foot out the door and one foot in. Because right after college, I also got married and then had my first kid pretty quickly. Right. So it was like, I got kids, I gotta be secure. So I was like, I can't leave the 9 to 5. Not realizing that 9 to 5 is not it's not really secure.
It's not secure.
Exactly. They can pull the rug from you at any moment and then you're stuck. So, you know, I went through that. I was in IT, then into project management, then into IT strategy. Then, you know, I got a ton of certifications, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, Lean IT expert, ITIL expert, project management professional, all of those things around process reengineering, efficiency, improvement, right? Okay. Until ultimately, the last job I had, I was working at Microsoft. Amazing job, loved it. But they made me even more complacent. Gotcha. Because I was like, I was earning $150,000. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You know, especially when the jobs before that, I was like less than 6 figures. And I was like, wow, now I'm $150,000 a year, bonuses, sometimes up to $200,000. I was like, wow, this is perfect. Right. And they were really a great company. But one time I was traveling every week, right, to see clients. So one time I was like, hey, you know, can I stay home this week? The client's not even going to be in the office. And I had to go all the way to California. And my son has a basketball game. I'd love to be able to attend it. And they were like, no, we still want you on there. I was like, but the client's not even going to be there. They said, no, I don't have to come. But you're saying I still got to go? And that was the end for me. I was like, nah, I got to beg you for my time. So no matter how much money I make, I'll never have time freedom.
For yourself.
Exactly.
But did someone like mentor you? Was there any role model in your life in terms of that guided you to mastering the craft of being an entrepreneur?
No, not at all. Well, let me not say that. I'm big on finding mentors. No one mentored me like out of the kindness of their heart. Right. I paid for specific courses. I paid for the things that I wanted to get into. Now, one thing I always tell people is if you are in your corporate job, your 9 to 5, use the skills and things that you learn from it to get into your entrepreneurial life, right? So that's why I was mentioning all of those certifications I had, because I got those certifications because the companies would pay for me to get it and that type of stuff. And those were the things that I focused on, right? So then process reengineering, improvement, scaling, process systems people. These are the things that are
able to plug them into what
I was going to do in my entrepreneurial career.
Right.
The only thing that was missing was, okay, well, what do I do? Right? So that's when I started buying courses, paying for a mentor in order to teach me specific business strategies that would be good to get into.
Things that you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me not say that either. It's not necessarily things I wanted to do. Here's a funny thing. A lot of people come to me and they say, I got this thing I'm really passionate about. I just really think I want to sell this because I really love it.
Passionate.
And I tell people, okay, I can give you some insight on how to sell it, but I recommend not following your passion initially.
Right.
Follow the money first. Right. And it sounds a little, I don't know, shallow maybe or something, but no, follow the money, because then once you start generating cash flow, that could help to fund your passion. But sometimes your passion don't pay the bills.
They don't pay the bills.
So you're going to put yourself in a more difficult situation, right? So what I got into was e-commerce at the time, and I didn't really have no interest in it then. I love it now, but at the time I was like, I saw that people were making good money on Amazon. I knew I was using Amazon a lot, and I'm very much a technology guy. Okay. Right. So that was 5-6 years ago, and everybody's on Amazon even more now because of the pandemic and all of that. But back then it was like, still teetering tottering and whatnot. But I was like, people making money on there. Let me look into it. And I paid for a course that got me into the right rooms with people that I wanted to talk to network with. I learned a specific skill, a specific business strategy. I utilized my corporate career skills to perfect that strategy, and then focused on making the business autonomous. Right. So I grew these businesses, made them running without me through, again, process, systems to automate, people to execute. Right. And then, let
me ask you a question, because I'm in business, and one of the biggest things for me is, when you are trying to scale a business, it's all about the service, right? Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of newer businesses now are all digital, but not all businesses are digital. So in terms of when you focus on, okay, I'm going to scale my business, how do you let go of the service entity in terms of, you still want the quality of service, you want the client experience, you want them to feel like, oh man, my interaction with whomever was great. How do you know when you scale a business, okay, I trust that it's going to be fine when I let go?
Process. That's really what it is. It's as simple as that, because how you construct the process, but then the process can't be stagnant either. You have to continually improve it, right? And that's part of my background, is continual re-engineering of process to make it more efficient, removing waste out of the process. As a CEO, you should be focused on creating partnerships, looking for more funding, just networking, building those relationships while everyone else is executing on the frontline stuff, right? I had one company that I started, which was a digital marketing agency. And at the time, it was Beez Digital Marketing. That wasn't the name, but you get the point. Right. I was the face of it completely. Right. So now everybody wanted to speak directly to me, or else they wasn't doing that. Right. And then I realized, no, this is not going to work, because I can't be, there's no one person, right? Yeah. And if I would say, okay, well, my team will talk to you, they'd be like, well, I want to talk to you. So I quickly learned, let me not in every situation should you make yourself be the face of the brand, because then everybody's just focused on you, right? So I focused on the process and then how to continuously improve the process. Now, I've also improved my approach since then. When you ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yeah. so many people have, right? And you remember there was this thing called a cash flow quadrant in it.
Right.
And in the cash flow quadrant, most of us start as employees. And then we say, hey, I'm tired of this. I want to work for myself. So then we go down to being self-employed.
Right.
But on this side of the quadrant, employee and self-employed, you're trading your time for money.
Right.
You only get paid per time.
Right.
So there's only so much time in the day.
Right.
So you're capped. I wanted to always go to the business owner side. And I lived there. So that's the third quadrant. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna, now I could work, instead of working in my business on this side, I could work on the business, right? And that was perfect for me. But I've grown my mindset now to working above the business. So the business owner side is still great,
right?
But that's where I've been going into the whole acquisition things. So you become more of an investor, because that's the fourth quadrant. And in that investor quadrant, instead of working on the business, meaning I got people operating, and I just kind of double check the process, and I do this and I do that, and I oversee, and I'm making.
So now it's acquisition.
Now it's just acquisition, and I have operators that are running it in the role that I was as a business owner, right? So in some cases I'm still the business owner, but in other cases I'm trying to go more and more to just being the investor. Right. And now I just kind of, structure deals and get businesses and,
But let's talk about, because one of the things you do too now is mentor and help others, which is awesome, to kind of like, figure things out. Isn't that, I'm assuming, something that takes a lot of your time?
Yes. So that was intentional, right? It was like after a while of, I was making good money, and then you go through these phases, and because I had nobody that taught me these things, I had to figure out a lot, right? The connecting the dots part. I would pay mentors to teach me a specific strategy, but the connecting the dots part I had to figure out. And I was making money, and then I was like, I got money, but I don't have no assets. It's just money.
Right.
So then I started shifting to getting assets, and getting assets that were producing money for me, right? Then I started, things were going good, and I was like, I got assets now, and they're producing, and my kids are good, but I'm learning so much things that I didn't even think were possible, like about trust and about infinite banking and about so much things that sounded like, Illuminati things when I was growing up, right? So I was like, man, and there's so much other people out there suffering. So then everything's kind of shifted to, I need to help people more. Right. So that became my new purpose, right? Gotcha. So I was willing to make the exception and say, all right, I'm going to start the Business Builders Institute, and I'm going to teach people. And I still have a long-term plan of eventually getting other people in there that are professors that can kind of teach, so then I can kind of pull myself up out of it too. Okay. But initially for this one, yes, I have to be very much involved. Right. And then, all the speaking engagements. I have my first TEDx talk.
I know, you told me. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
And while we're on it, talking about TEDx, so you've also, if you want to highlight it, Bjorn, Mr. Beez, has also written his own book. Yeah. So you want to tell us what the title is?
Oh man, this is so exciting, right? I don't know which one I'm more excited about, this or the TEDx talk, but this is, again, opportunity. Right? And I'm very big on, there's a saying that says success is when opportunity meets preparation. I like to say success is when opportunity meets preparation and speed, right? Now, I was at a conference, and Les Brown was speaking, and Johnny Wimbrey was also speaking, and he's also one of Les Brown's proteges and stuff. And they said that they had like a contest going to get a co-author with a bunch of celebrity authors. So you have to apply and talk about your background and show how you write and, whatever. Right. And I was like, okay. In the conference, I started submitting my application. Oh, okay. Like I didn't even the day didn't even finish.
You just,
I was like, oh, okay, hold up. I'm not going to let that go by. So I submitted my application. They got it that same day and reached out to me that night. It was like, wow, we love what you wrote. This opportunity that was mentioned is for next year, for 2022. Right. It's like, but your background is so amazing. I wish it's too bad you couldn't have made it on the book that was that we're wrapping up right now. I was like, well, why can't I? Right. They said, oh, it would take a miracle. I was like, well, define a miracle for me. They were like, listen, you got you'd have 1 week to finish. everything. Maybe about 3 to 4 days to write your portion, a couple of days to go back and forth with the proofreader and blah, 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 the editor.
Right.
And then we got to ship it off to get printed and everything. I was like, all right, bet. I'm on. Let's do it.
Right.
They were like, you sure? I was like, yeah, let's go. So I put everything aside and grinded out and got it done. And a few months later, I'm on the cover of a book with Les Brown, Johnny Wimbrey, Heather Monahan.
That's awesome.
And a bunch of other.
So tell us what the title is so that if anybody's watching, they can get it. Where can they get it and what's the title?
So this just came and delivered to me now. So give me a few days.
Okay.
I don't know when this is going to be published and such, but I'll have it on Amazon within about a week or two.
Okay.
All right. So Amazon, and then my site, Beez, that's with a Z, Speaks, beezspeaks.com. I will also have it there.
Okay, awesome. So I'm taking that till this day, Bjorn. One of the things you consistently do is continue to educate yourself, and that's just nonstop. So like you said, you still invest in yourself in terms of just trying to find out different avenues, different things, networking. So that's a never ending for you.
Never ending. So I might as well tell you my 4 pillars of success. All right. I came up with this and I'm not really sure how, but I know how. It's because it's true. It was just something that every single thing that happened to me, every inch of success, I could attribute to these 4 things. It really became 6 eventually because I added 2 things I'll show you in a second. But networking is the first one, right? I was able to take one of my businesses that I have to 7 figures without running any ads, just from the power of networking, right? So, and when you're networking, you have to be out there, meaning you can't just be in the room and listening, because it's not just who you know, it's also who knows you, right? I know Bill Gates, but he don't know me, so it don't really matter, right? So networking was my first thing. Second thing was you have to leave some people behind, which you kind of started by saying about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Right.
So I equate it to the same thing. I just look at it a little bit different as not only am I looking for the right people to put around me, but I also know that some of the people that's in my life I have to cut out, right? Some of my best friends, all we spoke about was Netflix and the club or whatever. Right. And that's not what I wanted to focus on. So you have to leave some people behind. Third is you have to buy seats at tables. You see, I talked about buying those mentorships. When I told my brother that, I was going to spend $1,000 on this course on how to teach me how to sell on Amazon, FBA, he was like, "Oh, don't spend that, $1,000. No, man, why would you do that? It could be a scam, blah, blah, blah."
Right.
He has a different mindset.
Right.
So you have to pay to get seats at tables, but while you're at those tables, you got to make sure you're networking and that you left the wrong people behind, the toxic people
and make sure that those people see you and know who you are.
Make sure that they see you and know who you are. I would even go to, Grant Cardone's 10X conference.
Right.
And instead of paying for the $250 ticket, I get like the $10,000 ticket.
Wow.
Why? Because I'm going to be seated next to other people who paid $10,000. And maybe I want to talk to them and see, I got to make sure while I'm there, I'm not just being quiet. Time. I got to, be known. And then while you're doing all of that, buying seats at tables, networking when you're there, leaving the toxic people behind, you got to build your own table too. So you see that I've created things like Hive, and we're out there helping the community and stuff. I built my own tables of like-minded people that were coming together to lift each other up and stuff like that. Right. So those were my 4 pillars. And then I added financial literacy, because when I started figuring out things like trust and the use of credit and infinite banking and all of these things, that skyrocketed everything for me. And then the final part, which is why I'm telling you this, is always learning. Right?
Always learning.
Always seeking knowledge.
Right.
And that's been my biggest thing, because even though I'm a teacher and I'm teaching people things, I tell everybody I'm a student first and foremost. I'm forever a student, and I always go and learn more and more and more as things change. And then I'll bring it back to my tribe and everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's been critical for me.
Well, that's awesome, man. And I really appreciate you, Bjorn. Thanks for taking out the time. Now, if someone wants to reach you, I know you're busy, but I know maybe if the check is big enough, right?
Yeah.
If the check is big enough, you'll talk to them. But if someone wants to reach you, can they reach you for mentorship? You want to tell them?
Yeah. So definitely Instagram is my main place that I live. Business Builder Beez, and Beez is with a Z, all right? Now, if you reach me there in the DMs and such, you'll get either myself sometimes or my staff and, help to sort things out. But also beezspeaks.com. If you go there, that's where, I get hired for speaking events. Like I said, my book, The Power of Mental Wealth, will be on there as well as on Amazon. I also have 2 podcasts right now, Entrepreneurship Exposed and Impact Over Everything. You can find that on all streaming platforms as well. And then if you just go to the businessbuilders.training, that's where the actual Business Builders Institute mentorship, that's where you can sign up for that as well.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
And thank you for the time. And again, guys, you'll see me next time with an amazing person, Bjorn. I appreciate you. I'll check you guys next time. Thank you.
All right.